I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation.
President, the region of the Middle East and North Africa is the cradle of our civilization. It has always been at the center of close attention of the international community. This part of the world has a very important historical, civilization, and cultural, social, economic significance. It has outstanding natural and human resources. And for a long time it has drawn interest to itself, which unfortunately was not always altruistic. From the beginning, we had colonial policy, and then recently, very recently, thoughtless external interference in internal affairs of regional players focused on replacing regimes. And this created the conditions for an accrual in the Middle East and Northern Africa of a volatile potential, which was detonated by many conflicts in different areas of the region. Russia has always and continues to advocate for a political, negotiated solution to regional crises. Finding these solutions must be done by parties involved themselves with genuine international assistance under the aegis of the UN, without the imposition of artificial decisions, deadlines, or of unrealistic conditions. This line has allowed us to make significant progress in Syria. Thanks to the collective work of participants in the Astana format, we've managed to achieve de-escalation and stabilization in a large part of the Syrian territory. On the outcomes of the Congress of the Syrian National Dialogue in Sochi on the 30th of October 2019, the Constitutional Committee started its work. We will continue to provide assistance to the Special Envoy of the Secretary-General, Geir Pedersen, in his contacts with all parties involved in the Syrian peace process, so that the joint work of Syrians can be done without external interference and in a professional and pragmatic atmosphere. To achieve peace for once and for all in Syria, the necessary efforts to restore the war-torn economy are required. Endlessly imposing new political conditions is unacceptable and inhumane. We'd advocate for a ceasefire in Libya, certainly with the exception of counter-terrorism operations, and a renewal of the negotiation process between all Libyan political forces based on previously achieved understanding in Sirata, in Paris, in Palermo, and in Abu Dhabi. We are ready to get involved in realistic initiatives which could strengthen the work of the Special Representative of the Secretary-General, Hassan Salami. We are in contact with all Libyan players, urging them to drop their weapons and address the discord around the negotiation table. We maintain the hope that thanks to the assertive work of the Special Envoy of the Secretary-General, Martin Griffiths, soon we'll be able to set the wheels in motion for a solution in Yemen. We welcome the signing on the 5th of November 2019 in El Riyadh, an agreement between the legitimate Yemeni authorities and the Southern Transitional Council acting in the south. It's important to continue efforts to bring warring parties in Yemen to discuss the parameters for a universal solution. We support the need for a swift normalization of the situation in Iraq and Lebanon, and the instruments for a broad national dialogue to put in place to this end. Establishing calm in these countries is vital for the entire region. A détente in the region would allow us to reduce artificially stoked tensions around Iran. The creation of blocs against one of the states in the region will not bring peace to the Middle East. We are convinced that countries in the Middle East and North Africa must themselves and together draw up the parameters for a collective regional security. For this, we need to start a dialogue. With this goal, we propose to countries in the region a concept of security in the Persian Gulf. A prerequisite for successful progress towards re-establishing stability in the Middle East and North Africa is solidarity between Arab players mainly within the framework of the League of Arab States, to draw up a common vision of central problems in the region and how to solve them, and protection of international law, which underpins the contemporary world order. President, whatever questions we discuss, a key problem in the region remains a solution to the Palestinian-Israel conflict. A shifting of focus from this to others, or sometimes artificial problems, skews our vision. It makes us short-sighted. Without solving the Palestinian issue, lasting peace in the Middle East will never happen. A fair decision to the Palestinian problem is possible, but only on the basis of relevant Security Council and General Assembly resolutions, the Madrid Principles and the Arab Peace Initiatives, which set forth the creation of an independent, sovereign, territorially contiguous Palestinian state within the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. We share the concerns of the majority of UN member states as regards the systematic unilateral steps on the Palestinian track, which are eroding the prospects for a delineation of historic Palestine as was set forth in UN General Assembly Resolution 181 from the 29th of November 1947. Changing international custom and the very concept of a two-state solution will lead to a conceptual revision of the fundamentals of a peace in the Middle East and the relevant many years of work of the international community. We very much disagree with the recent decision of the USA to no longer believe the settlement activities of Israel to be a violation of international law from an alleged recognition of the real situation on the ground. Previously, much we didn't recognise the sovereignty of Israel over the Golan. In these conditions, it's very important to mobilise efforts to constructively focus on representatives of the international community to support generally accepted foundations of a peace in the Middle East. We're interested in coordinating activities with influential international players and the UN to return to a collective approach to finding a solution. We welcome the activities of UN structures in the region. For example, particularly like to highlight the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees in the Middle East, UNRWA, which assists in stabilising the situation. In this connection, we believe it is short-sighted to discredit UNRWA and to cut its funding. The hope that with the disappearance of the agency, the problem of Palestinian refugees will disappear is naive and dangerous. We hope that the change in the leadership of UNRWA will not have an impact on the activities of the agency, which for decades has shown its effectiveness and need. Russia is actively participating to strengthen stability and security in the Middle East and in Northern Africa, to working on working relations with all key players in the region. We call for work to be done collectively based on agreed approaches in the interests of addressing the most acute conflict situations. Thank you very much.
I thank the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation.